Okay, class, what I'm focusing on today is the four types of factoring you're going to need to master for the test. Okay, and I'm going up in what is considered order of difficulty, but that's what's key is identifying the different parts and working on the ones you feel that you're the weakest at and making sure you're still strong at the ones that you're the strongest at. So I'm going to go step by step and look at the first case. It's called binomials with x factors in both terms. And there's only two terms, and there's a power 2 and there's a power 1. The method you want to use in this type of strategy is factor out a GCF. So when I look at the GCF, I'm thinking, okay, what's the GCF of a 25x squared and 100x? So we got to think about that. What goes into 25 and 100? And so your mind has to finally come up with the fact that 25x squared is 25 times x, and 100x is clearly 25 times 4 times x. And when you think about it, there's an x and there's a 25. So the GCF is equal to 25x. And that's how I find the greatest common factor. So you say, okay, 25x goes into both of these. We're going to divide into both of these. And so you put the 25x on the outside. And you say to yourself, well, what do I need to get 25x squared? Well, if you remember, it's 25x times the x. So what's left is this x, and you write the x right down there. Now, if you've taken out 25x from 100x, you're really saying 25x times what is 100, and you've got to realize it's the number 4. So you need to put the 4 right there. But the key is there was a negative, so you need to keep the negative. And when you check it out, it'll work because 25 times negative 4 will be a negative 100. In the end, that's how fast you do it. This is what we call the factored form. And I hope you get that one real fast. And this is that case. All right, now let's go to the next case where you see the x squared, but this time you don't see the x and there's a minus sign. So there's a couple things that have to happen here. There has to be a negative number here, and there has to be a variable to a second power. All right, so I'm going to teach you the fastest way I know. It's called taking the square roots. And what I do is something called the square root of 25x squared. And I think in my mind, what times itself gives me 25x squared? And I realize it's the expression 5x. Another way you could have thought about this is you could have realized that you need a 5 and you need a 5 to get 25, and you need an x and you need an x to get the x squared. Then with this minus 100, it also has to be the same magnitude of number, but the signs are different. What multiplies to a negative? Now keep in mind that that negative sign stays with the 100. So this time you're looking for a negative 10 times a positive 10. And that's the difference of square technique right there that makes it very easy for you to write 5x minus 10 times 5x plus 10. And this is also factored form. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If you did this on the test, I'd give you a B, a 3 out of 4, not a 4 out of 4, because we have to do completely factored. And completely factored is when you look at that 5 and 10, you realize there's a greatest common factor. There's a GCF of 5 and 10 equals 5. So in my mind, I'm thinking now, what I write in green is in my mind. I'm thinking in my mind, ooh, I want to divide by 5. I want to divide by 5. And that means I want to write 5 times x minus 2. And then in my mind, I do this again. I want to go divide by 5, and then I write a 5 on the outside, and I get the exact same thing, x minus 2. Now, all of this is being multiplied, and what you want to do is you want to multiply the two number parts to get a 25 times an x minus 2 times an x minus 2. And this answer is where I give a 4 out of 4 because this is completely factored. Okay, so if you get here, you're already passing, but watch out for the completely factored on a difference of squares. Okay, now on to the next style. Factoring when a equals 1. Well, what do I mean by a equals 1? I mean when there's a hidden 1 right there. Okay? And this problem is very easy to do because there is no GCF You use the factor box method, and it's really simple. You just put your x squared up here, and you put your 100 here, and you got to find something that adds up to negative 25x. Well, you got to go through the combinations of 100. Now, because this is a minus, and this is very important right here, because that is a negative, you don't want to deal with positive factors, you want to deal with negative. So I'm thinking of negative 1 times negative 100. I'm thinking of negative 2 times negative 50. I'm thinking of negative 5 times negative 10. And those are all the combinations when you check with your calculator. Now you take a hard look and, oh, I apologize, not times negative 10, sorry about that. That's times negative 20. Okay, so this is negative 25. Let me just clear this out here slowly. Okay, let me do it again. Negative 1 times negative 100, negative 2 times negative 50, negative 5 times negative 20, and negative 10 times positive 10. Sorry about that. I had to make sure I had all the combinations, and if you check on the calculator for sure, these will be the 4 combinations that have negative factors. Now, you know the x and the x is easy, and you're thinking, I need a combination that adds up to negative 25x. Well, when you look at negative 1 and negative 100, let's just try it. You say, okay, I'll try it. You put it in the box, you do the check, and you get a negative 1x minus 100x. And something in your mind's got to tell you that doesn't equal negative 25x. So you have to do another box. So you put the x and the x in, and you go negative 2 and negative 50. Now, I'm going to do it, but something in your mind should tell you when you cross multiply, you get a negative 2x minus 50x. And you got to tell yourself that doesn't equal a negative 25x. So that one's out. Finally, you get to negative 5, negative 20. Put your x, put your x, put your negative 5, put your negative 20, check it. You get a negative 5x minus 20x. And that does equal a negative 25x. So you get to write x minus 5 times x minus 20. And you get to circle it. And you say that is completely, well, actually, it's factored and it's completely factored. So this is the factored form. And this is the final answer. Now let's go to this one. This one you have a difficulty with because 2 does not go into 25 and 5 does not go into 2. So there is no GCF. So that means we cannot factor out the GCF and we must go to step 2. So you go to step 2, put your 2x squared, put your 50. And with 2x squared, there's only one combination that will work, 2x and 1x. Over here, though, you have to check the 50s. And of course, 1 times 50, but we want negatives. Why do we want negatives? Because this little part here has a minus sign. So you want negative factors. Negative 2 times negative 25, negative 5 times negative 20. And then I'll check the last, not negative 5 times negative 20, I apologize. Negative 5 times negative 10. And I'm double checking all my math. 6 doesn't work, 7 doesn't work, 8 doesn't work, 9 doesn't work. And then we have a repetition. Okay, so now you got to go through the combos. So you got negative 1, negative 50, and you must check. Well, clearly you get negative 100x minus 1x. That doesn't equal negative 25x. And the 50 is going to cause problems, so that's gone. So you do it again. So you go 2x, 1x, and now you try negative 2. Let's see, maybe the negative 2 down here works. Negative 2, negative 25. You get negative 4x minus 25x. That does not equal negative 25x. That equals a negative 29. We're close, but that's not what we want. Finally, we go to this one. So now we have a 2x. We still have a 1x. Now you have to be careful here because this can work. The catch is you got to create negative 25, and 2's got to multiply to something. So 2 times the negative 10 will get you the negative 20, and the 1 times the negative 5 will get you the negative 5. So putting the negative 5 up here and putting the negative 10 down here is a perfect combination. And what you get here is a negative 20x minus a 5x, which equals a negative 25x. And you get to finally write 2x minus 5 times x minus 10. In class, that is completely factored. So I hope I've gone through all the 4 major factoring techniques. You want to review this video a couple times depending on what problem you're looking at when you review your homework, when you review the group worksheet that I'm giving in class, and and practice for that test. I'm really proud of all you guys. Thanks for watching. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to you guys doing really well on next class. See you then.